everybody, and welcome to our Bodacity show. And welcome, Micaela. Did I say it right? Micaela Passeri. Passeri? How do you say it?
Yes.
Passeri. Okay. And she's dialing in today all the way from Italy, where it's late at night, I'm gathering, right?
Yeah.
Chat with us. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it, especially all the way from there. So let me give you her official bio. Today we're going to be talking about emotional resilience in a noisy online world and how to master your emotions for maximum profit. So let me give you a little bit of background about Micaela, and then we'll talk about the juicy tidbits behind all that and this really important topic. So how do we keep our equilibrium amongst all of the stuff that's going on? So Micaela Passeri is a US and European-based award-winning emotional intelligence and business performance coach, best-selling author, international speaker, community leader, and founder of the Emotional Money Mastery Business Training Programs and the Love Your Evolution Retreat in Italy. With over 20 years of experience building 6- and 7-figure businesses, Micaela puts her business degree, experience, and many certifications to use, helping entrepreneurs fully unlock their financial abundance with strategic monetization and sales structure implementation. Her work has helped hundreds of clients boost self-confidence, tap into inner wisdom, increase productivity, banish anxiety, demotivation, and crippled momentum, cure business stagnation, and monetize their business to 6 figures and beyond. She's also the Global Women Club Director for Los Angeles and sits on the board of the Ocean Conservancy Dana Blue. Wow, you're a busy woman. So, and have been in business for quite a while, for 20 years or more, right?
Oh, yeah. I've been in business since graduated college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Long time. So tell us a little bit about you that we wouldn't guess from your bio or, reading your Facebook or your webpage. Tell us something that we wouldn't expect or guess about you.
Right. How much time do we have, right? There's a lot.
But juicy tidbit.
Yes, tidbits. You've already kind of said a little bit of it, right? So I'm bilingual and bicultural. So I was born and raised here in Florence, Italy. And at the age of 20, I came over to the US to go to college and study. My mom is American. My dad was Italian. My parents gave me the opportunity to come to the land of the free, the land of opportunity to create my life. And it's been an amazing journey because I've been able to really mold myself in the person that I am today as I have let go and made peace with a lot of the internal emotional, baggage that I've picked up as a young girl living in a very patriarchal society. Italy, everybody loves Italy, and I love it too. But it is very traditional and it is very entrenched in very old ways of being. And so a lot of that I took on and kind of made interpretations that weren't as supportive for myself. So I was able to kind of take that and learn how to let it go and release it so that I can actually create the life that I want. And so that's really what I did. In a gist, I took the leap. I took my parents' foresight of saying, go to America and make the American dream come true for you. And that's what I did. And I've been now in the US for 31 years this year. And, with not very little effort, with effort and work and commitment and resolve and determination and desire, I've been able to really understand who it is that I am, understand how we work as human beings, how our emotions and our thoughts create our results, And that's what I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And how if we really want to create the life that we want, we've got to look within first.
Right, absolutely, which is a good segue into our topic today. So what got you so interested and passionate about emotional freedom, and what makes you the emotional ninja?
Right. Well, so when I first moved to America, in 1991, going to college, and all of a sudden I got a call from my aunt and gave me not very good news. My father had passed away in a horrible car accident in Bulgaria. So the year before, he sends me off to the world, right? And don't get to see him much. We obviously have our own father-daughter issues, and then he passes away. So the impetus and the reason why I kind of started in personal development and really trying to understand who it is that I was and why I was behaving and doing the things and thinking the things that I was thinking and doing was just that. Because when that pain hit me, it was so excruciating that I wanted to find out a way to make it stop. And because I was just 20 years old, I was young, I experienced, I didn't know much about life. But one thing I knew that I was in pain, and I knew that I wasn't meant to be in pain forever. And so that was the kind of the push that had me say, okay, I need to understand how to manage myself. I need to understand why I feel this way. I mean, I knew obviously it was because of that, but there was a lot of other things that started coming up and showing up in my life that were unrelated. And so I really wanted to understand how to navigate it and how to feel okay so that then I could, make my dad proud, have the life that I wanted, or that also he wanted for me. At the time, it was more about what he wanted. And then obviously I figured out that it really isn't about what other people want. It's about what you want. But, that's what it was at the time. And that really was a cathartic moment for me, and the biggest defining moment in my life, as tragic as it was. But it was, it was a lesson for me for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that transition from it being about and for someone else to being about and for us is such a big pivotal moment in our life, to let go of the approval, let go of the other standard, and bring it back home. So so let's talk about kind of emotional intelligence. What is it, and what are some of the fundamentals of it?
Yeah. So emotional intelligence really is the capacity that every human being has, because we all have it. We have the capacity to manage our emotions, to self-regulate. So what does that mean? For somebody who maybe is just hearing, emotional intelligence, or has heard it but doesn't really know what it is, it's really the understanding that, okay, first of all, as human beings, we're emotional beings, right? We feel, we emote. So because of that, we're constantly feeling things. And every time that we're feeling something, whether it's extreme, moderate, or even very little, we have the opportunity to respond or react. And so emotional intelligence is really that dance that we have within ourselves between reaction and response. So when we're not in emotional intelligence, we're reacting, right? So I don't know. Let's make a very basic example. Driving around the road, somebody cuts you off. You're what? You go into immediate reaction, right? Mm-hmm. In emotional intelligence, we take a pause, right? We take a pause. We understand that in that moment, we could be our animal selves, because we are animals. We're rational animals, but we're still animals. And as animals, we go to the instinct animal selves, because we are.
Sorry, go ahead.
So we recognize that we could go to the instinctual side, but instead we choose to go to the rational side. So that's taking a pause, taking a breath, and making a choice to respond. So maybe in that moment of, somebody cutting you off on the road, you're like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Let me take a breath. Like, I don't need to react that way. I'm just what's it gonna do? Like, they're not gonna hear me. Why do I need to disturb my balance? And I'm just gonna go on my merry way. So that's a very simple example. However, we can take that response and reaction and place it into all aspects of our lives, in our personal life. So our relationship, or relationships with our children, with our parents, with our loved ones, with our husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, all of that. We can place it into our business, how we relate with our coworkers, with our employees, with our vendors, with our clients, right? We can totally bring it in and still operate from that place of response. Now, when we look at emotional intelligence, we say, okay, I get it. I just avoid reaction and I really think about what I'm going to do before I do it, right? Yes. But there's really four basic elements of emotional intelligence. The first one is to acknowledge that you're having an emotional experience. So in the moment, let's say, again, let's use a very simple example of somebody cutting off on the road. I'm experiencing what? Frustration, anger, right? So it's acknowledging to yourself that you're having this emotional experience. Second fundamental is that as you've acknowledged it, now let's try to understand it. Why am I having this? Why is this triggering me so much? And then kind of introspecting and asking those questions. What's underneath this? What is this about? What am I meant to see or learn, right? Third is to then, once we've identified it, once we've understood it, is to manage it. So that's where the response versus reaction comes in. So like in that moment that we understand why we're having that response, it's like, okay, I don't have to react because I know where it's coming from. It's between me and me. So what does the outside world have to do with it? Nothing. So then you get to manage yourself. And the fourth is then that you've acknowledged, you've understood it, and you've managed it, it's to use it for your benefit. So really to empower yourself from that experience so that then you use it as a lesson moving forward, as a maybe replication of something that you can do in the future, or just in the moment to feel strong and centered and balanced, right? So we're using it to empower ourselves. So emotional intelligence is really this tool that we can use to create and mold moment to moment to moment how we're feeling, how we're experiencing life, how we're experiencing situations and relationships and other people, so that we can have really a more peaceful and loving and connected and whole experience, life, business, family, everything. So it's really the fundamentals of everything that we do, really, because everything stems from emotion.
Right. So in that process, so I understand the four steps. Where in that process is the feel the feeling? Or is that a significant, important part of emotional intelligence? Because acknowledgement, understanding, choosing or managing, and applying meaning to it, using it for our benefit, are all kind of intellectual processes, at least in my world. So where does the feel the feeling come in? Or does it?
I'm glad you asked that, because, I never know how much time I have to kind of expound on each segment. Yeah. So the feel the feeling comes at first step, right? At the acknowledgement. The moment that I acknowledge that I'm having this experience, then I get to allow myself to feel that emotion and to understand that it's just momentary, it's passing through, so that then I can understand it and manage it, right? So absolutely, we get to be then in our body, be in our heart space, be in our feelings and our emotions about what's happening, and then get back to the rational part and say, okay, great. I understand this cognitively, intellectually. I understand that I get to respond instead of react. And how then at that point, I can choose to respond very strategically, very thought-wise and conscious, through conscious awareness. Mm-hmm. So that's really, kind of like where we want to bring ourselves through the emotion. We want to ride the emotion and then bring it back to the rational side.
Got it. So we only have about 10 minutes left, but I want to understand the emotions that halt our flow, especially for entrepreneurs and with regard to our business. But then also would love a couple of tips for how you move through those stages. So how do you go from acknowledgement to understanding to choosing to, using it for your benefit? What are some of the tips or ways or tools that you would recommend for doing that? So wherever you want to start.
Sure. So there are, when we talk about our emotions halting our flow, we get to really look at obviously the negative emotions, right? So what are the emotions? You want to first ask yourself, when you feel in resistance. So it's not like an an opening. It's kind of like a feeling contracted. Maybe your heart feels heavy. Maybe your throat feels a little closed. Maybe you just feel like a big weight on your shoulder. For every person, it's different. But whenever you notice that you're feeling restricted, that is the kind of, a sounding alarm that the body is giving you that there's something that's misaligned, that's not in alignment within yourself. So in that moment, we want to take a look and say, okay, what is the emotion that is in the way, right? Now, there are three main emotions that halt our flow. Number one is worthlessness. It's feeling that we don't deserve, that we're not up to par. Maybe we're inferior or small, that we're not capable. So there's a lot that goes into worthlessness, but it's really an emotion that's connected to shame. Shame is the lowest vibrating of all emotions. It actually vibrates at a frequency of 20. So when we look at the lowest vibrating emotion, which is 20, before death, after shame, it's 0, right? So if we also look at, I'm going to take a little tangent here, at most of the reasons why people kill themselves. So we look at suicide, it's tied to the emotion of shame, right? Because there's kind of like feeling of nothingness, feeling of like embarrassment and like not feeling worthy to even live. And that's below 20 is 0, right? So when we look at 20, which is shame, and we look at enlightenment, which is 900 and 1,000 as far as frequency, worthlessness is connected to that shame. So we have to really be careful with worthlessness, because we can get into that cycle of really kind of burying ourselves in this feeling of nothing. So when we feel nothing, or we feel that we deserve nothing, then how can we expect to create abundance, to, create a certain income, right? Or to have love and health in our life. It's all very connected. So worthlessness is number 3. Now, how do you combat it? Worthlessness. The way that you do that is you acknowledge that that not the whole you feels worthless, but there's a part of you. Maybe it's a part of you that's connected with your past. Maybe it's a part of you that's connected to something recent. Only you're going to understand that. There's a part of you, only a part of you that feels worthless. And so the emotional ninja hack for that is to bring love and compassion to that small part that feels worthless. And as you bring love and compassion to that part, instead of beating it up and saying, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't feel that, bad you, all of that, you actually bring love and compassion. You coddle it so that you can build that inner strength and inner confidence. The number 2 emotion is, well, there's several, but the biggest one is failure, right? Failure is really that emotion that kind of keeps you in that never-ending cycle of negativity and fear, because we failed once or twice, then we are in this kind of pattern, this sabotaging pattern of avoidance, hiding, not expressing, right? So that we don't fail again. So failure is a tricky emotion because it just can really keep us stuck. It's actually the predictor of self-sabotage. So when we look at failure and look at an emotional ninja hack for failure, we want to look at the kind of like the opposite. Okay, so if I have failed and I know that failure is part of our life's journey, then I can actually create a plan for myself, right? Create maybe some action steps. And so for failure is really looking at what one can do, even though one has failed, right? And creating maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 step plan to do that. And then number 1, the biggest emotion that contributes and halts our flow is fear. And there's all sorts of fears, right? Fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, fear of judgment, fear of bodily harm, fear of being laughed at, all sorts of fears, fear of maybe not being enough, right? So when fear kicks in, and it does from pretty much all of us, it's important to understand what's underneath the fear. And when we can understand what's underneath the fear, then we can apply the emotional ninja hack for fear, which is to act even though you're afraid. And that's really what it's being courageous. It's being courageous. And courage is the emotion that really delineates from our negative to our positive. It actually vibrates at 200. And everything below courage is contraction, and everything above courage is expansion. So if we really want to design the life that we want and create the abundance that we want, we get to access courage. We get to step into courage. We get to take action even though we're afraid, and move ourselves through the upper levels of our higher and positive emotions. So, yes.
Interesting. I think I hadn't put the framing of failure is the predictor of self-sabotage before, or the feeling of failure. And certainly I totally agree that the antidote to fear is to act anyways, that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to act anyways, even if you're afraid. So what are some, and then we'll talk about your gift that you have for people. What would you say, what's one or two tips or hints for creating courage? So to move up that emotional state ladder, what's one or two ways that people can create courage?
Yeah. We all have the capacity for courage, first of all. So anybody who's watching this and listening to this, even if you might think, oh, well, I'm not courageous. I want you to really hear this, is that we all have the capacity for courage. Number one, the thing that you can start doing is when you do feel fearful, take that pause, take that breath, and start thinking, really, what is it that I'm really afraid of? And when you realize and you acknowledge what you're afraid of, is to maybe write down what are things that you wouldn't normally do, that are opposite from you usually do, that could get you out of that fear, right? Sometimes it might be just really small, right? For some people, it's getting out of bed. For some people, if we talk about business, right, it's maybe making a video and posting it on Facebook, or sending out a certain email, or having a hard enrollment conversation with a client where you're asking for the sale, or you're coming up against their objection and you're actually giving them some solutions, right? Whatever that is, it's really maybe strategically and intentionally writing down a couple of things that you can do. The reason why I'm saying writing it down is because when you write it down, you take it out of the head and you put it on paper. Mm-hmm. And when you put it on paper, then you can go back. So maybe if you forget it, or if you get overtaken by fear, you can go back and look and say, oh yeah, that's right. That's what I said that I could do. That's what I thought that I could do. Right. The other one that's more of a practical thing is I tell a lot of my clients to wear a rubber band, right? Mm-hmm. The reason why we are addicted to fear, we're hooked into failure or worthlessness or any of the other negative emotions, is habit. It's conditioning. It's cultural. It's emotional, right? It's all of that. It is a pattern. So what can we, in order for us to shift it, we've got to have a pattern interrupt. And the easiest way to have a pattern interrupt and to bring the conscious mind somewhere else than where it goes down the downward spiral is to take that pause, acknowledge that one is going down the downward spiral, and then choose something different. So a lot of the times I tell my clients is to put a rubber band around your wrist. The moment that you have awareness that you may be feeling fear, that you're feeling, like a failure, maybe you're feeling worthless, or any other negative emotion, is to literally snap yourself out of it. So you snap the rubber band as hard as you can so that it gives you a little pinch, a little burn. That physical sensation takes the brain out of that habituary thought pattern of going down the downward spiral and gives you that moment to say, oh, wait a minute, that's right. That's old. That's my pattern. Let me go over here. Let me choose something different. Let me feel, think, act in a different way that's different from my pattern. And that really is, train your brain to do that. Eventually it becomes automatic. But those are a couple of simple tips that people can do on their own.
All right, I love it. So it's clear that you're very passionate about this work. And what kind of work does an emotional intelligence coach do with people that other coaches may not? Or what's kind of the work that you do with people?
Yeah. So the unique way that I work with people is I marry the emotionality, so the subconscious mind release that gets to happen for the business owner or the entrepreneur so that they understand what's really tapping them out or tripping them up or holding them back from achieving the results that they want in their business. And then I bring in the business strategy. I am, my degree is in business. So that is what I'm trained on, is the business strategy part. So it's really, the way that I do it is I married the two, because I really believe that in order for me to be my best and highest version of myself, I get to let go of my emotional baggage. I get to let go of my triggers, my past, anything that might be triggering me into disempowering patterns. So I've got to look at both worlds. I've got to look at the practical world of business, and I got to look at the empirical, more spiritual part of me, the entrepreneur, right? So that I can understand how and why I'm creating the results that I want now, and so that I can purposely and intentionally manifest the results that I want. So that's really the difference. It's marrying the two and doing them parallel.
Okay. So speaking of manifestation, you have a gift for people that they can get. So tell us about that. It's about the wealth vibration. Is that an ebook or what is that?
It's a download. It's actually a download. So it's a download that it's a scale that shows you the different frequency levels and vibratory levels of the core human emotions, and what the corresponding dollar amount. So what your wealth factor, what I call wealth factor, which is your income ability to earn a certain amount of money. We all, at different phases of our life, have a certain potential to make.
Sorry.
It all depends on, yes?
Yeah, sorry. Phone interrupted. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. So we all have, at different times of our lives, we have different wealth factors, right? As we evolve through our life, we will be changing and shifting our wealth factor. And as I was just sharing, what I define as a wealth factor is the capability that I have, the ability that I have to generate money, to generate income. So this chart really kind of connects the dollar figure with the emotional frequency wise, right? So the download is really for you to kind of see and give you a gist of where you might be at. Obviously, if you want to dive deeper, then it requires a deeper reading and session with me, which people will have an opportunity to access if they want. So, and the moneybreakthrough.com /wealth vibration is the link to go to.
All right. So that's moneybreakthrough.com /wealth vibration. All right. Yep. And is the moneybreakthrough.com where they can find out more about you?
No, actually, my website is loveyourevolution.com.
Okay.
So that's where out about my services, connect with me, all of that. Obviously, they can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Okay.
Under Micaela Passeri.
But
yeah, the site is Love You Revolution.
Okay, and it's loveyourevolution.com, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So what's one final thought or tip or comment you'd like to leave everyone with?
What I would like to say is that we all have the capacity to create the life that we really truly desire, no matter what it is, no matter what is in what resides deep within us. We all have the capacity for it. What I would like everybody to understand is that it really starts within, and it starts with that introspective journey to understand and unpack our conditioning and our emotionality, so that then we can really truly design our future and leave our legacy. Because really, that's really also what it's about, is to leave a legacy. And it all starts with you. So if you're intrigued with this topic, and you're intrigued about delving deeper within yourself, I would say start asking yourself, every time you feel a bit of dissonance and a bit of misalignment, is what's underneath that? What is that about? And that will start that introspective journey for you. And reach if you need support.
Love it. So be curious, be the observer, and step back, and also then you have the power to choose where you want to focus and go next. So that's one of the wonderful things about being human, is we can always choose again. So I love that, a reminder. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you staying up later and calling us from Italy. And I really appreciate your passion, Micaela, for people really having that freedom that comes from being conscious and aware
Yeah.
and choosing, so that we can focus our attention, our intention, and our energy where we want to go to create that life
Yeah.
we're talking about. So thank you so much for being here, and everybody have a bodacious week. Please go and get that gift as a great reminder of the, not only where you may be at and kind of taking a look at that, but also a reminder that we do have other options. We can choose. We can make different choices in who we want to be in the world, so that you can be the difference that only you can be, which is really what having bodacity is all about. So thank you for being here. See you all soon. Remember, next week is our special Financial Literacy for Women panel discussion with some amazing experts. So love to see you all here. If you want to raise your emotional vibration around money, then you can talk to Micaela. If you want to come and deal with all of the other components of money, how to get it, how to keep it, how to manage it, then you want to tune in next week. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you. Have a great week, everybody.